Imagine a ruler, so depraved, so drenched in blood, so unthinkably unhinged, that even in the twisted annals of ancient Roma civilization steeped in cruelty, decadence, and conquest his name is whispered like a curse. This is no myth, no rumor, no exaggeration. This is history, and it is terrifying. His name was Gaius Julius Caesar, Germanicus, but history recoils from it. Instead, we remember him by the nickname Roman soldiers once gave him, in jest, a nickname that would one day drip with irony and dread: Caligula. Little Boots, a name once cute enough to charm the legions, became within a few short years a symbol of madness, of divine delusion, of imperial horror so grotesque that even now, to millennia later, we still flinch when we speak it. The Golden Boy of Rome. He was born in 12 AD into the gilded heart of Roman nobility. His father, Germanicus, was the golden general, charismatic, victorious, beloved by both soldiers and civilians. His mother, Agrippina, the elder, was the granddaughter of the deified Augustus himself. The blood of emperors ran in his veins. From birth, Gaius was adored, the embodiment of Roman virtue. As a toddler, he marched with the legions along the Rhine, clad in miniature armor. The soldiers laughed and dubbed him Caligula, after the Caligulae, their military boots. He giggled at their spears and rode horses barely taller than he was. A symbol of hope, they thought, of continuity, of strength reborn. But in Rome, rot festered. The empire turns on itself. Augustus, the architect of the empire, was dying. His designated heirs died, one by one, some by fate, others by design. In desperation, he turned to the cold and reluctant Tiberius, a man whose soul seemed carved from granite and whose warmth matched the alpine snow, to keep the people from revolting. Augustus forced Tiberius to adopt Germanicus. The plan was clear: let Tiberius rule in name, but Germanicus would one day lead in glory. It never came to pass. In 19 AD, Germanicus died in Syria, his death cloaked in suspicion. Many believed Tiberius had poisoned him. Agrippina dared to speak the accusation aloud. Tiberius responded with cold fury. He exiled her to a barren island, imprisoned her sons, one driven to suicide, the other starved to death in a dark cell. Of her children, only Caligula remained. A boy now orphaned by the empire he was born to inherit. His childhood did not end in adolescence. It ended in blood. Capri, the island of monsters. In 31 AD, Caligula, now 19, received a summons from the emperor himself. Capri. To the public, it was a sun-drenched paradise. In truth, it was hell in marble. Tiberius had abandoned Rome for this secluded island fortress, a place of whispers and screams, of orgies and executions, of violated children and silenced witnesses. Caligula entered this lair, not as a guest, but as an experiment. The courtiers mocked him, provoked him, tempted him to slip. But he learned to be silent, to observe, to mirror, and eventually to indulge. He drank from the same poisoned chalice as Tiberius. He watched pain and learned to laugh. The line between survival and sadism blurred. Tiberius, ever paranoid, once said, "I am nursing a viper for the Roman people." He had no idea how prophetic those words would be. The rise of a goat. In 37 AD, Tiberius died, or was murdered. One rumor claims Caligula himself smothered the old man with a pillow, standing still as stone, until the emperor's last breath rattled into silence. Regardless of the truth, Rome rejoiced. The tyrant was gone. In his place rose a shining beacon, son of Germanicus, the child of the legions. When Caligula entered Rome, it was as if Jupiter had descended from Olympus. Flowers rained from balconies, streets flooded with joy. Hardened centurions wept in public. The Senate bowed. The people sang. Caligula, they believed, would return Rome to its golden age. And for a time, he did. He counseled unjust taxes, ended the dreaded treason trials, released political prisoners, hosted games, fed the hungry, bathed the empire in light. He seemed not like an emperor, but a savior. But that summer, the light began to flicker. The descent. In October of 37 AD, Caligula fell gravely ill. His skin turned ashen. His eyes rolled back. For weeks he lingered between worlds. Rome prayed. Senators vowed their lives. Temples choked with incense and weeping. Then he awoke. But something had changed. The boy who had walked into the underworld had returned with something on his back, something dark, something broken. He summoned the senators who had offered to die for him, and he began having them executed. Emperor of madness, what followed was not tyranny. It was delirium. He proclaimed himself a living god, Apollo reborn, Jupiter incarnate. He strutted through palaces in golden armor, in dresses, in nothing at all. He forced senators to grovel. He raped noblewomen and then mocked their husbands. He turned Rome's sacred spaces into brothels. He married and discarded women like playthings. He took his sister Drusilla as his lover, elevated her to divine status, demanded the legions swear loyalty to her. When she died, he shattered. He built her temples, declared her a goddess. But the grief soured. He laughed at funerals. He mocked the Senate. "I need only give the word," he once said, mid-banquet, chuckling, "and all your throats would be cut." He wasn't joking. An empire in terror, the economy collapsed under the weight of his excess. He revived the treason trials to fund his lunacy. Random citizens were accused, tortured, and executed. Their estates seized, families ruined. Public executions became daily theater. Smiles were required. Tears were punishable by death. He built a floating bridge across the Bay of Bai, using warships lashed together just to prove an astrologer wrong. He rode across it in golden armor, laughing, as the empire starved from diverted grain. Another time, he declared war on Poseidon. Had his army marched to the sea and collect seashells as spoils. Thousands died, and Caligula declared victory over the ocean. He ordered his statue placed in every temple. When word reached Judea, revolt nearly broke out. It was only the delicate work of King Herod Agrippa that prevented open war. The final act by 41 AD, Rome could take no more. The Senate plotted. The people whispered. The Praetorian Guard, once his protectors, now sharpened blades in secret. On January 24th, Caligula exited the theater. Waiting for him was Cassius Chaerea, a man he had mocked for his voice and his masculinity. Chaerea struck first, then came the others. The emperor, who had once claimed to be immortal, collapsed in a pool of his own blood. Screaming, stabbed again and again. His guards did not defend him. They ran, but it did not end there. His wife Cassania was hunted down and killed. His infant daughter Julia Drusilla had her brains dashed against a wall. The dynasty was purged. For a moment, Rome dreamed of the Republic, but the Praetorians had other plans. They dragged a stammering, shivering Claudius Caligula's uncle out from hiding and declared him emperor. The wheel turned, the nightmare continued, and 13 years later, Rome would face Nero. Legacy of a monstrum tried to erase him. His name was scratched from stone, his statues pulled down, his memory condemned. But Caligula survives, not in marble, but in myth, because he is more than just a mad emperor. He is a parable of what happens when the abused becomes the abuser, of how divine blood can curdle in madness, of how power doesn't just corrupt, it devours. Caligula began as a child in tiny boots, laughing beneath the banners of empire. He died as a god in rags, soaked in the blood of his people. And perhaps, the most chilling truth of all, if it could happen to him, it could happen to anyone.